That's where we start this hour for that major breaking news that US President Joe Biden has formally announced that he's withdrawing from the US presidential election. In a statement shared to his social media channels from his COVID isolation, he said he believed it's in the best interest of his party. We've got cameras on key locations this morning, including the White House in DC, where Trudy McIntosh will be joining us from shortly, and Joe Biden's home in the state of Delaware, which is where he is believed to be this minute as we switch the shot. That's where he is recovering from COVID as well. We've got our reporters covering this huge story in the United States. Annalise Nielsen starts things off in Washington, DC for us. Annalise, so, I mean, it was a few hours earlier, before the statement anyway, that it seemed as though Joe Biden was going to dig in again, which is what he's been doing for the past few weeks now. But now he's out. So what happened?
Look, there was that sense that they had to be fully in until they were out. And the turning point was all the big donors saying that they weren't going to fund his campaign anymore. As much as we follow all the different members of Congress coming out and saying he has to move and all those small machinations, really at the end of the day, money matters in these campaigns, and they simply couldn't continue the way they were going. So this statement coming out in this way is certainly not what was predicted. The fact that this is a letter posted to social media channels, we haven't seen anything from the president, but we understand he will speak to the nation later in the week. As he says in this letter, we read it in part where it says, "It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president, and while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interests of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all those who've worked so hard to see me re-elected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all this work, and let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you have placed in me. I believe today what I always have, that there is nothing America can't do when we do it together. We just have to remember we are the United States of America." Now, in a separate post, he then goes on to endorse Kamala Harris, where he says, "My fellow Democrats, I've decided not to accept the nomination and to focus all of my energies on my duties as president for the remainder of my term. My very first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president, and it's been the best decision I've made. Today, I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year. Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this." Well, they have not come together, and this is not a guarantee for Kamala at all. Barack Obama's put out a lengthy statement, and we'll read it in part, where we can tell you that he does not endorse Kamala Harris right out of the gate. He said, "I also know Joe has never backed down from a fight. For him to look at the political landscape and decide that he should pass the torch to a new nominee is surely one of the toughest in his life. But I know he wouldn't make this decision unless he believed it was right for America. It's a testament to Joe Biden's love of country and a historic example of a genuine public servant, once again putting the interests of the American people ahead of his own, that future generations of leaders will do well to follow. We will be navigating uncharted waters in the days ahead, but I have extraordinary confidence that the leaders of our party will be able to create a process from which an outstanding nominee emerges. I believe that Joe Biden's vision of a generous, prosperous, and united America that will provide opportunities for everyone will be on full display at the Democratic Convention in August, and I expect that every single one of us are prepared to carry that message of hope and progress forward into November and beyond." Certainly nothing as explicit as the endorsement we've seen from Bill Clinton in this statement. We won't read the whole thing, but it does say, towards the end, "We are honoured to join the president in endorsing Vice President Harris and will do whatever we can to support her." Now, Pete, what this means is that we are looking at an open convention. None of these delegates have to vote for anyone. They don't even have to vote for Joe Biden. As per the Democrat rules, there is an exemption that allows them to vote with their conscience, which isn't used very often at all. But there was that threat. They were going to start having pro-Gaza protest votes on the floor of the Democrat convention. Now they could well have an open convention, which means all those delegates representing each state across the country in that roll call that we saw took about half an hour at the Republican National Convention can drag out for days in a contested version, because it's up to each of those to say who they want. They have to get the majority, and if they don't, the roll calls go on again until they do. So this is going to be messy. If other candidates put their hat in the ring, you'd expect perhaps someone like Elizabeth Warren might want to do it, because this is realistically her last chance. And hey, if it's open slather, let's go for it, she might be saying. But what's interesting is this has come from a very fractured Democrat Party. Even Joe Manchin speaking earlier today, he's an independent senator now, but has been a long-time Democrat. He represents so much of the Democrat base that they're losing to Donald Trump, those blue-collar workers, those ones who don't have the university degrees that they're watching the Democrats forgive student loan debt for, that don't believe in the kind of woke policies, as the right describe them, that they see the Democrats focusing in on, that don't buy into climate change and get told that this is the be-all, end-all. So this is interesting from Joe Manchin just earlier today.
I came to the decision with a heavy heart that I think it's time to pass the torch to a new generation. I believe that he has a chance, an opportunity, to finish the 5 months of his presidency with the way he has always basically overseen his office, whether it be as senator or as president, wanting to be that uniter, bringing us together, being able to bring peace to the Middle East, being able to support Ukraine in their fight for freedom, and also being able to show the whole world have a transfer of power.
And Pete, as we talk about this coming to a head in such an apparently short amount of time, even though this has been dragging on for a long time, this is the Biden campaign chair on Face the Nation just earlier this morning, a few hours ago.
The president's going to run his campaign. He's not trying to persuade his party. He's trying to persuade the voters that he will wake up every day fighting for them, and that the guy on the other side who's unhinged and who only thinks about himself is going to continue to divide this country and sell out working class and working families to the billionaire class.
Okay, so Annalise, I mean, if we start heading towards an open convention, let's run through the names here that our viewers might want to familiarise themselves with over the next few weeks until we get to that point, who may well be the Republican nominee. The Democrat nominee, I should say. Sorry.
Sorry, I knew what you meant. They're also, I mean, she's going to have to pick a deputy as well. She's going to need a vice president if she continues to say, we still haven't heard from her yet. She hasn't accepted this endorsement from Joe Biden yet, although we can all assume that's where it's heading. But these are the names that are currently in the mix. Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, that's a key state where they're losing at the moment. She was one of the first to say, Biden, you're going to lose my state if you keep going. Gavin Newsom, governor of California, he's quite popular. He does a lot of media on kind of the left side of things. And so a lot of people know him, but he has some real baggage with some of the issues in his own state. And it's unlikely that he'd be happy with being Kamala Harris's number two, because he's younger, would have a longer career trajectory ahead of him. J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, he has a ton of money from his own family. He's a hotel heir, but the issue is he's also got some real issues with how Illinois has been run, especially over the pandemic. And so that would be a difficult calculation for him. And Andy Beshear from Kentucky, it would be seen as a good combo with Kamala Harris. But there's any chance that these kind of up and coming stars would say, hey, I don't want to go now. We're kind of got a losing hand here. The Republicans are all kind of in lockstep, and we're the ones bartering with chaos. And so why jump on their ticket now when we can wait 4 years and have a clear run with an open primary next time around? Because that seems to have been the huge miscalculation in all this from the Democrats. They seem to think everyone hated Trump as much as they did and had the memory that they did, so that they didn't need to curry favor. They just needed to be the other guy. And people, I can tell you, over the last week traveling, and not just at the RNC, which you'd expect, I've met at least 3 people who have told me that they're voting for Donald Trump for the first time this election because they're fed up with the economy, they're fed up with how the foreign policy is being run. And I've started calling them Trump-arounds because they've come around to Trump third time around. It's really a thing. And I haven't seen any kind of polling or reporting on it, but I'm very curious about where this is coming from.
Yeah, OK. So let's just close out for now on this point before we go to Trudy at the White House. We've spoken about this as well. You saw those comments from J.D. Vance last week, who basically said it's unacceptable that Joe Biden should be president until November. They want him gone now. Speaker he's already hit that mark again today. Is there any chance that Biden could be forced out before November?
They could try to force votes on the 25th Amendment and Capitol Hill, which would be to say you don't have the capacity to continue. But generally to do that, you'd need the vice president on board. Kamala Harris isn't going to want to do that in the midst of trying to run an election campaign. But this is going to be a popular push from the Republicans, and we have a sitting week next week, so you can expect there'll be a lot of that, them saying, why are they letting him continue when they said he's not fit to run for another 4 years? Why is he there now? So Speaker Mike Johnson has put out a statement on this. Again, it's very lengthy, so I won't read the whole thing, but towards the end, he says, regardless of the chaos in the current White House, our adversaries around the globe should be reminded that the US Congress, the US military, and the American people are fully prepared and committed to defend our interests, both at home and abroad. If Joe Biden is not fit to run for president, he is not fit to serve as president. He must resign the office immediately. November 5 cannot arrive soon enough. So after November 5, if Donald Trump is voted in as the presumptive president, then he would start to get access to private security briefings. Technically, he should be able to get access to more now that he's confirmed as the Republican nominee for president. But it was kind of assumed that the Biden White House would be stonewalling that ability to access it. It doesn't matter that he's a convicted felon. The access that you get to those higher level security briefings in this instance is either as an elected representative or a presumptive or a candidate. So this is where it's going to get tetchy until November 5.
Okay. Annalise, we'll leave it there. Our colleagues at Fox News at the moment too reporting that Kamala Harris is honoured to have received Joe Biden's endorsement so far. So we'll see if there's anything more in that. We'll talk to you again at the bottom of the hour. Annalise, thank you.